The Latin maxim ad astra per aspera means through adversity to the stars. These people have come from all across the nation to prove themselves at the SASI Debate Challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 8th edition of the SASI Debate Challenge, brought to you by Say What, supported by SEAL, SAYWHAT Events and Lifestyle, not to mention through the courtesy of Nyarazo Group. And I am your debate master, and you can call me Debate Master Jumbe. Today is going to be an absolutely extraordinary and exhilarating debate. So let's get to understand these brilliant individuals, who they are, and where they come from. So I will start off from podium number one. Podium number one, who do I have the honor of knowing today?
Natasha Tariro Mandega and Alfred Tafazo Bandera from Women's University in Africa.
And on podium two?
Nombulelo Ndlovu and Prince from the National University of Science and Technology.
Interesting. And on number three, podium, how are you today?
Hello, how are you?
Very well.
My name is Tapio Amutsa from Middle State University, and with me is Kaylin.
I see. And on podium number four, who do we have the pleasure of meeting today?
On podium 4 is Dorcas Makanganise and Tafazo Maravanyika from GZU.
That's extraordinary. So, now that we've all been acquainted with each other, I'll be doing quite the injustice to the craft of debate as your debate master if I were to not elucidate you when it comes to the rules and regulations that we'll be abiding to on today's debate. Today's debate will follow a British parliamentary style, categorizing of 4 teams and 2 teams in proposition and the other 2 teams in opposition. Each team member has approximately 4 minutes of speaking time, as well as 15 seconds of POIs, which will be points of information. We are advised to maintain a high level of sportsmanship, class, and civility through this argumentation, because we are not here to have a rug match, but we are here to be advocates of change in the future. Because it's not enough for us to just know information, but we must act as well as true leaders of revolution within our respective spheres of influence. Well, that's enough jibber-jabber from my end. And I think it's time that we get into the motion for today's debate. The motion reads as follows. This House believes that youth climate advocacy should shift its focus from awareness raising to solution building. I shall repeat the motion once more. This House believes that youth climate advocacy should shift its focus from awareness raising to solution building. The motion has been read. The teams have been acquainted, and we've already said that this motion has this house. And what is a house without a man of the house? I think you know what time it is. It's time for us to seal the deal. Welcome to the SASI Debate Challenge. We've seen these people battling it out round after round after round, but now things are about to get quite contentious and difficult. No longer will I look at them as mere young students or scholars, but now they are true delegates of opposition and proposition. May I kindly ask the Prime Minister to come forward to take the stand and stand for their ideology.
Thank you. I am in support with the motion that reads, this House believes that youth climate advocacy should shift its focus from awareness raising to solution building. The definition of this motion is that it requires the youth climate advocacy to shift from being theoretical to being practical and giving solutions that are very innovative. Right. I am in support of this debate, saying that youth climate advocacy has successfully raised awareness about environmental issues, but greater emphasis is needed on proposing and implementing solutions since it lacks, sorry, my eyes, okay. Sorry. Youth climate advocacy has successfully raised awareness about environmental issues, but greater emphasis is needed on proposing and implementing solutions since it lacks policy drafting, technological solutions, and collaborative with government and businesses, right? I'm saying this because we have seen that over 3.5 strikes were organized globally between 2019 and 2021, yes, by the Global Youth Climate Strike Track. And these were just advocacy policies, but they raise awareness, yes, but still remain underrepresented in national climate strategies. And it shows how we should shift from raising awareness to solution building, because yes, we can have 3.5 strikes raising awareness, but we need 3.5 solutions as well to tackle those awareness that are being raised. Organizations like Young O have begun emphasizing innovation, funding youth-led climate solutions, and this shows that there is indeed need to shift its focus from awareness taken.
Okay, can you characterize what awareness campaigns look like besides strikes?
Pardon?
What do they look like besides strikes?
I said they're policies. Listen. Anyway, furthermore, to drive the systematic change, our youth must transition from being critics, right, to being co-creators. Yes? Awareness alone cannot reduce emissions or restore ecosystems. Rather, concrete, scalable solutions can. For example, compiling annual youth climate reports worldwide through data-driven policy recommended highlights that we are theoretical as youth, and we need to shift from this. Another point we have as the opening government is that youth have unique access to innovation and technology, making them well-suited to lead in developing practical climate solutions. It is indeed true, because as youth, we have got this unique access. Hence, if we are just raising awareness, we can't show you how we are very innovative and giving you solutions. We also should have solution-focused advocacy, which builds trust with policymakers and increases the linked influence of real-world implementation, leading to a better innovative country rather than critics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister. I will now call upon the leader of the opposition delegation to come forward and provide their case.
Panel, we already bring to you in this debate and why we should forget about what the opening government has already said, because they've basically underdeveloped their case in the end of the day, because opening government's case has failed to actually address the issues of what they are solution buildings that they're actually advocating for at the end of the day will look like, because they're not showing us how at the end of the day they'll shift from the awareness raising solutions to actually solution building. So what do they come and insufficiently bring? They come and tell us about the shift of being theoretical in being to being practical. But we ask a question at the end of the day that that how do we then do this without our voices being heard as the young people, since this at the end of the day is the foundation. They tell us about the issue of strikes, but which is at the end of the day insufficiently developed. So what do our case looks like? We come and explain to you what does youth climate advocacy look like at the end of the day. We tell you that these are young people standing up for actually what is right to do within the climate ecosystem. We tell you what the problem that is there within status quo at the end of the day. We tell you that the problem that has been there is we've been having a government that has been making promises to do actions on particular things which have not been made. So the reason why we want youth to continue with this awareness, we want their voices to be continuously heard, and that the government continues to remember that something needs to be done within status quo. What are our major stakeholders within this debate? We tell you that our major stakeholders within this debate are the young people, they are the society, which are actually part of this climate action, and the large companies and the corporates that are there within status quo that are actually even affecting this climate change when they actually in the industry and they're industrializing. We tell you that at the end of the day, when youth are actually advocating for actually the climate action at the end of the day panel, we come and tell you and explain to you that these companies will actually be thrilled at the end of the day panel to actually even fund for these solutions that we're talking about. So panel, at the end of the day, we tell you that everything at the end of the day starts from advocating. So what does the solution of building, why we say that the solution of building may be important in this debate? We do not say that it's not important, but we say that awareness rising at the end of the day remains a foundational and necessary role for youth climate and advocacy. What do we bring for you in this debate? We say, number one, awareness is the foundation of this action. When we say that awareness is the foundation, we're saying that we cannot have any solutions without making you being aware of the impanel. People need to first of all understand the problem that is existing with this status quo in order to bring about a solution. What secondly do we bring in this debate? We tell you that youth lack structural power to implement such large-scale solutions that the government might try and argue. We tell you that as much as they lack that, we tell you that they don't have access to funding, they don't have access to the technology or the political authority to build and scale national solutions. So at the end of the day, this is going to be so unrealistic of how they implement the solutions without bringing about awareness. We tell you at the second day that awareness campaigns do lead to pressure for solutions. So we tell you at the end of the day that as we continue to advocate, as we continue to make sure that you are aware of these climate actions, we tell you that they will actually pressurize the government. It will pressurize big companies to actually be there to bring about the solutions. So for them to come and tell us at the end of the day that it only starts in solutions, that there's been a lot of talk and no action at the end of the day, we tell you that as we continuously advocate, like we're advocating right now, they'll actually bring us to a world whereby we bring solutions at the end of the day. So awareness continues to be the main foundation. Lastly, what we tell you, we're saying we're building awareness which is inclusive, where awareness can be brought through art, awareness can be brought through poetry. Awareness can also be brought through by storytelling and by protest. And as youth continue to do this, a lot of people are able to understand the message that is brought out. So youth climate advocacy should not shift away from unawareness. It should do both and keep awareness as the heart of its power. With this, we've never been so proud to oppose.
Thank you very much, Opposition Leader. I will now call upon the Deputy Prime Minister of the opening government to provide their case.
One thing that I've learned in life is that self-awareness makes loud noise, but action does the work quietly and efficiently. Self-awareness without action is useless because it is stagnant. People need action. People need to see change. Change does not come via self-awareness. It comes through action. It comes through credibility. It comes via objectivity. The opposition leader was talking about advocating. You can advocate on social media all you want at the comfort of your home. But as long as the people in Chimani are still homeless because of what happened in 2019 or 2020, It's just noise. It's self-awareness without action. It doesn't help those who are vulnerable because of climate change. We need solutions. How do we get to the position
Point.
of solution? Rejected. How do we get to the point of solutions? The youth, they should collaborate with NGOs. They should collaborate with the government. They should collaborate with the community. Because just making noise on social media is not the panacea to the problems that those who are affected are facing. It's all jackets, no action. So, when we're dealing with the
Point.
things to do with the climate change, it's not about being reactive. It's about being proactive. When a person is proactive, it's all about action. Please, opposition leader, I want you to go and check in the dictionary the word action and also check the word self-awareness. There's a big disparity. There's a big difference. So, I just want to say this. I want to agree with what the Prime Minister said. He said that there's need for practical. Yes, the word practical goes in line with the word action. It goes with the word collaboration. It goes with the word community. They go hand in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, there is this movement called Future Fridays. It's popular. It's actually a popular hashtag on social media. It's about climate change. But even though this hashtag has been around social media a million times, still it's not helping people who are affected in Europe, our brothers and sisters who have been affected by the cyclone Ida in 2019 in Ichimani, because it's all about social media. If we want progress in line with climate change, let's go beyond self-awareness. Let's talk about collaboration. Let's talk about solutions. Let's push for policies that make sure that the people who are affected are taken care of. Let's push for policies that promote sustainability in line with climate change. In a nutshell, what am I saying to this house? I am saying, let's go beyond self-awareness. Let's walk this road called action. It's a beautiful road. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister. I will now call upon the Deputy Leader of the Opposition to stand and come to the center stage and provide their case.
Panel, the saddest thing that happens in today's debate is the idea that the opening government fails to understand that young people are being affected by the harms of like centuries of people industrializing, making wealth and money out of those parallel actions, and yet the same young people are the ones that are disadvantaged within status quo. Because likely, panel, what they miss is the idea that what does youth-led climate action look like? It looks like young people who are, one, don't have enough influence to make sure those solutions that you're talking about can materialize and be effectively implemented. But second of all, they don't have access to the funding. The people who have the funding are the rich moguls, the rich people who have been for centuries hoarding like enough wealth and money through destroying the environment and the climate itself, and who necessarily don't have enough or sufficient incentive right now in the status quo to change their like actions of continuing to industrialize and keep up that productivity whatsoever that is still harmful. What do we get from them as like contributive matter, right? They tell you that self-awareness is something that is important, but then it's much more important to take action. It makes it much louder. The missing link to that particular idea or argumentation is that they fail to understand how much capacity that the young people then lack to actually make this materialize. The first action for them to get to make those solutions happen is for them to first go through awareness campaigns. What do awareness campaigns do, Panam? They pressure the same rich people into putting up collaborative action into those solutions that you want to build at the end of the day. One critical point you need to understand in today's debate is that we're at a unique opportunity, Panam, where we can effectively tap into mobilization and get that full awareness ready, like all stakeholders that need to be involved to actually make it happen. But the only problem is that at a point in time when you make a shift, as in the keyword in the motion, Panam, you're likely to create a counterproductive pushback from this. What's the counterproductive pushback, Panam? Most corporates in the world right now have an interest in wanting to seem relevant to climate action. So at a point in time when you're telling them that you're not just advocating against the wrong they're doing, but you want to build solutions, they're going to take them up through greenwashing and exploitate those solutions. What they do at the end of the day, they numb down the advocacy that these young people are trying to push for, as if they show that they're helping them get these solutions out there, yet necessarily they're not doing anything sufficiently enough through climate action. Before I close on the extensive matter that we have in our case, I'll take one from closing.
Panel, understand that awareness raising is something that is currently happening and we're saying it's not working. So how do things change in your world?
Kaylin, I'll appreciate when you come to give me sufficient evidence why it's not working. Panam, like I told you, we're at a critical point where awareness campaigns is not, of course, at its peak moment, but it's gradually, fastly growing into giving us that amount of action and sort of awareness we need and that pressure we need into those people who are influential and can get that action done. How is that parallelly happening, Panam? It's happening through platforms like social media, which young people are themselves very familiar with. It's happening through many campaigns, even the strikes that you're talking about. We don't think that awareness campaigns are just limited to those strikes. We think awareness campaigns looks like education. Why is parallel education important, Panam? It's because you can't get effective solution building or implementation without people first knowing what climate action is. The problem is not just that people don't want to take up climate action, but it's because they don't know exactly what really is important about that climate action and climate change. But it's also because the rich people shape the narrative of what climate change and what really it looks like. They continue to create a narrative that means that, no, necessarily global warming is not that bad. There's a lot of people within status quo that still need to be educated through workshops, through campaigns, for them to know how bad the situation is so that they can be motivated and mobilized to take up that action. On our side of the world, we maximize that solution building after awareness campaigns, not before.
Thank you very much, respectable speaker. This now concludes the first half of our debate. We'll see you right after the break. Welcome back to the SASI Debate Challenge 2025, and this is the 8th edition. I have the absolute honor of being your debate master, and you can call me Master Jumbe. And today, we are joined by some quite the caliber of individuals. As you've already been joining us before, you can see that every single moment of this is engaging. Now, we will continue and persist with the debate. I will now kindly ask the member of government to come forward and present their case.
Panel, we think that awareness raising has reached its expiry date. Why? Because it doesn't offer us long-term solutions, right? We think that people are aware of the effects of climate change, and we think that when we continuously emphasize or continuously make efforts in awareness raising, we do not reach a solution. What we reach is a community that is informed of the effects of climate change, but not addressing the causes or the problems that are associated by climate change. Now, panel, in our world, what does shifting focus from awareness raising to solution building looks like, right? It looks like us taking action to influence a policy, right? How do we influence this? The moment we engage the government and have a discussion with them about the effects of climate change, we think that we have reached a point at which we are able to offer a solution, right? We think that when we are able to get on the ground and work on the ground as young people, we think that we are better more in our world to address the solutions or to address the impacts of climate change, right? We think that when we get partnerships or when we get engagement from other organizations, we are able to offer solutions, right, panel? And we think that this is the best thing that can happen as compared to just raising awareness, right? We think that the problem with opposition is that they only reduce the role of young people to just being like aware and making people aware. But we think that in our world, young people have the capabilities to mobilize resources. How do they mobilize resources? They get funds from other people out there. They can also contact non-governmental organizations. Even at most, they can even engage the government, right? We think that when young people take action, right, panel? We think that we are better. We think that we can best address the effects of climate change, right? And we think that's the best solution. Now, how bad things are in the context, right? We think that awareness does happen, but then when it doesn't necessarily solve the effects of climate change, right? These effects are like hunger, starvation, poverty, deforestation. Now, when as young people we converge and we say that we are going to build trees in Chimaniman, we think that we have addressed the effects of climate change. And at that point, we think that's a better solution than just raising awareness denied. Now, with solution building, we get more benefits rather than awareness raising, right? We are saying that with solution building, right, it impacts directly the people, right? It impacts directly the marginalized people that are most affected by climate change. How? Because we leave our towns or we live where we are and we go on the ground and then we start doing the work there, even if it's planting more trees or doing whatever we're doing. We think that's a step towards addressing the impacts of climate change, and we think that that's the best solution that we can take. We think that as young people, we can do a donation drive to lessen the impacts of climate change for marginalized people, right? We think that we can pool resources or find organizations or churches or organizations that will give us things that we can also go and donate to lessen the impacts of climate change that is like hunger, starvation, and poverty. And we think that's action that young people can actually do, right? And we think that that's the best solution that we can ever do as young people. Now, our first argument, panel, is that shifting to solution building will legitimize youth advocates and increase their bargaining power. We think that when we do that, panel, we are able to offer solutions. We get bargaining power. We partner with organizations. They ask us, what have you done so far in addressing climate change? We tell them that we have planted trees. They know that we have the capabilities to do more, and we think that we get more funding. Panel, youth awareness wants what they get at their side of the house. We think that they just want to raise awareness and continuously be heard by the government. But we think that it doesn't necessarily offer us the best solution in this case. And we think that when we partner with organizations, we get the best solution. And when we engage organizations, it's action. And that's the best that we can get. With this, I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I will now call upon the member of the opposition to rise and present their case.
So, panel, the opening government came and gave us a case that's premised on the idea of mechanizing the youth as the primary spearhead in affecting climate change. The climate change solution building. The challenge with this is that they fail to characterize the demographic of people we're talking about here, which is an age range that ranges from between 18 age to 35 age in most cases. Now, this is a demographic that is underutilized, undercapacitated, without enough resources or access to capital that can actually effect this change. They perceive that the youth group is some kind of endless form of human capital that can be just amassed and directed towards the end of creating solutions. And this is why they were quashed by opening opposition, which came and gave a correct analysis that further delves deeper into the concept of there's the rich group of people, oligarchs, and people who are benefiting from the proliferation of climate change. These are the capitalists that are running our countries and running our economies, and they are blockading that. And to that, we would like to offer the extension that the key thing that we would like to focus on here is the shift. The fact that the shifting from focus for the youth is going to be made harder by these groups, by these demographics, because they're supposed to, the shift of resources is going to be, the shift of attention from primarily awareness building to solution crafting is going to be intensive, it's going to be hard, it's going to be exaggerated. When it comes to the, when it comes to the particular closing government, they came and hedged the case that's based on the idea that awareness is now sufficient. This is a fallacy, and this is the reason why we say this is because there's climate denial. It's because there are people who do not have access or do not have the knowledge about climate change. So awareness should be an ongoing process. Now, what we are saying is that the two key points that we're going to bring is that the youth are not capacitated to solve the issue in terms of solution building, so they should rather focus their energies on crafting awareness campaign. The second point we should give is that awareness should be a continuous process. When it comes to the first point where they say the youth are not capacitated, let's look at the event that happened with Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg was a massive influencer, a youth person who led a massive revolt, a youth-led movement, the greatest that has ever been when it comes to climate change. And this failed. And this failed, the reason why it failed to effect any change in terms of direct action when it comes to companies is because the people who run the companies that pollute the environments, the people who are in offices, the people who are in governments are not the youth, but they are the people who have been voted in and who are controlling. So we're saying that the youth do not have the capacity to effect actual change when it comes to solution building, but they have the capacity to raise awareness. Greta Thunberg's movement may have failed to effect direct change when it comes to policies like carbon tax that are now being, but it did raise awareness and directed eyes towards that issue. The second thing we'll tell you under this point is that there's a domino effect. Once the youth focus all of their energies where they can actually make an impact, which is awareness building, there's a domino effect where there's pressure placed on this government and key stakeholders to actually effect the policies and motions that will make a direct change. And after that, we're going to give an even if analysis where we say, okay, fine, even if you're going to say that the youth have the resources or the capacity, which we say they do not have since there are other youthful groups that don't have the resources, there is no social responsibility on them to actually effect this change. The social responsibility lies on the people who are actually making the climate change, who are actually contributing, which are the oligarchs, which are the companies, which are the governments. Now, under the second point, which are saying awareness should be continuous. The battle is not yet won under awareness building. There's something called climate change denial. Climate change denial are people who do not believe that climate change is happening. They think it's a conspiracy theory. The second thing under this is that in underdeveloped countries, which are effectively the most affected, there's not enough knowledge, or there's no enough knowledge to make the causal link between the damage that's happening to their communities because of climate change and the actual concept of climate change. So awareness building is not a battle that's been won. It should be a continuous and ongoing process. So we are saying that it's even difficult for this thing to be managed. So under this, because of this particular two key reasons, we think that it is important that the youth divest their energy where they will actually make a huge impact rather than where they would not, which is our case.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. That was quite the stakeholder analysis. And now we will go to the final individuals of our debate. May the government whip please step forward and provide us with their case.
Panel, understand that in today's debate, the closing opposition does not have an extension. They come and try to extend the opening government's case on how we don't think that youth have enough capabilities or enough resources in order to make solution-based impact. We don't think that is true. We think that is false, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. So, panel, understand that when I prove that youth are actually capable of bringing solution-based, doing solution-based building, right? We think that then on our side of the world, we get to win today's debate. Panel, understand that it is not true, first of all, that youth do not have resources. Panel, when we talk about youth advocacy, we are talking about youth engaging with existing NGOs, existing fund me pools, and existing organizations like the UN, youth fund me, right? We think that panel, when youth themselves advocates for awareness, it means that in an instance where they get these resources, they get these funds, they then channel them towards raising awareness. And we think that we have had enough awareness, and we think that we are not saying let's stop raising awareness. We're just saying let's shift focus. And shifting focus on our side of the world means that we're investing more on the side of building solutions. Now, what Muta comes here to tell you on our physical matter is that, panel, we think that raising awareness has failed to solve the immediate problems that are being caused by climate change. On our side of the world, panel, we tell you that we think that actions speak louder than words. So on our side of the world, what we tell you, panel, I want to give you a short analogy of how the Kenya strikes panel actually changed things. We're telling your panel that awareness is something that exists. We think that it is not true what is being claimed by the opposition, that information is not being spread out. We think that is false, and we think that there is a lot of proof, panel, that people are getting this information. So what we propose as side closing our government in today's debate is to say that when we receive funds, instead of directing these funds towards printing T-shirts that say, oh, let's save the climate, we want them to focus on getting people in marginalized areas seeds that are drought resistant. That is the kind of change that we're talking about when we are talking about building solutions, right? But then let us look at what this debate has been about. So the opening opposition in today's debate cannot rank above us, panel, because they fail to understand the existing status quo. They fail to understand the existing status quo, that awareness is something that is already currently taking place, and we are saying that awareness is something that is going to continue. But we want to ensure, panel, that in an instance where we are prioritizing, we prioritize building solutions, right? So on our side of the world, we think that is the world where we get more impact. I'll check that.
Okay, first of all, please tell us which funding, because Trump recently pulled NGO funding from countries like Zimbabwe. Where are these young people getting that kind of funding that you saw?
We don't think that is the chart, panel. We think that there still exist so many other organizations, even if it's not Trump, and I mentioned the UN, right? We don't think that is relevant in today's debate, and I will not engage, right? So another argument that we get is that, well, we want you to have real bargaining power, and the only way they can have real bargaining power is when they're raising awareness. We think that you do not have a bargaining power right now in the world, in the status quo where they are raising awareness. We think that the only way to get these multinational companies to act, panel, is if we're going to ensure to go and check. That is solution building. When we say we're implementing such a policy, we are then going to ensure that such policies are being followed, because we think that awareness is all about being loud and fitting onto what people are buying or what people want. We think in an instance, panel, where we are saying that we're no longer building awareness, we are also going to ensure that we are visiting these institutions, we are visiting bigger companies, and ensuring that they're not only just greenwashing, but they're actually taking climate action seriously. And that is the kind of world that we bring on our side of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. We will now move on to the last delegate of today's debate. May the closing opposition whip please come forward.
Panel, already we tell you that we think we don't get a clear matrix on what solution building looks like from the opening government. Already we tell you that if it looks like digital means to solve these very climate issues, we tell you are incapacitated. Secondly, we tell you that if it looks like advocating for policies that enables change, we tell you that policies are already there. That is our stance as opposition. We are telling you that if it's about coming up with policies that are there or meant to ensure that we curb the climate action or the climate changes that are happening, we tell you that solutions are already there. Now what is left? What is left is actually advocacy, and we show you how this advocacy looks like on our side of the house as opposition. Panel, we also come here and we tell you that awareness in itself is not simply saying that we know that something is happening, but also sometimes we know that something is happening, but rather we're just incapacitated to come up with a better solution to solve the problem. So in this case, we're simply saying that we know, but then rather than actually coming up with digitalized systems to slow down the climate action, what what we can do is like come up with systems to try and like slow down the climate action from happening. And that then looks like what closing government comes in and tells us. Closing government comes in, runs a case and tells us now this is like action and like trying to build systems that detect climate action. But panel, we tell you that their case in itself, when talk about how it's easy for us to build trees, it's easy for us to like go about with the GoFundMe stuff, and how instead of printing T-shirts, we then come up with like we build dams and resist like floods from happening. Panel, we tell you that money that's supposed to be used to buy a T-shirt that costs something like $3 can't actually come up with a solution of building dams to stop floods from happening. We tell you that it becomes not pragmatic in this debate. But now we tell you that in a situation now where we want to like put this to like practicality. Firstly, we tell you that the shift in itself is going to be simple, where we tell you that the shift in itself actually requires resources, and we do a greater job in showing you how we don't have those resources already. But secondly, panel, we tell you that we think these youths in themselves are actually only capacitated to make sure that they raise awareness, and taking away the very same right of them just raising awareness, we think it robs them of what they can do in order like to contribute to the very same conversations of climate change. Now we tell you that when we talk about like climate awareness, in as much as they want to paint a fake picture of how we've been doing this all day in, day out, and how we think people are aware. Panel, we tell you that at the same time, we don't think it's about the public only being aware, but we think about it's about making sure that the conversations are had within like government systems. Because at the end of the day, what we do as closing opposition, that is not done by opening opposition, that makes us different as simple panel. We come here and we tell you that, oh well, we do understand that as Zimbabwe or as developing countries, we're not really like capacitated enough to come up with all those digitalized solutions. But what we can do is we do have like already legal systems that are there. We tell you of polluter pays system, polluter pays principles. We tell you about how we are part of the like the SDGs that are there to detect climate change. We tell you that we already have these legal systems in hand that government talks about. But what is lacking is implementation. And we tell you that awareness in this sense actually coming up and like making people aware that there is a problem will drive conversation. And we tell you that the government is incentivized to make sure that they please the public, because at the end of the day, what is the government without the public? So we tell you the moment that we drive such conversation to show you that yes, there is a problem, and because we know there are policies that can mitigate this problem from actually continuing, we think when we drive that conversation, we actually curb climate change from happening. We slow down the process, at least in as much as it's difficult for us to come up with new systems in order like to come to a complete stop. So now what do we do differently in this debate? In this debate, we don't just talk about like climate action in a sense, but we show you what a youth look like and why we think like youth are capacitated enough to like bring awareness other than what they do in this debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I would also like to offer quite the thanks and gratitude to all the speakers that have presented today. And in this time, we'll now go for a bit of time with the deliberation concerning our judges. We'll see you right after the break. And we are back. It's the favorite time. You know how much I love this entire section. So now this is where we get into a bit of chit-chat concerning the debaters. So, podium number 3. I hear that one of you're both studying procurement, right, and logistics? You deal a lot with shipping of products. Has anyone shipped you two together, out of curiosity?
We wouldn't let it happen.
I completely understand.
We're not close like that.
I understand completely. Well, that's enough time for the jokes. The adjudicators have already completed the entire adjudication, and they're ready to provide us with the results necessary that we've all been searching for. I will now call upon the chief adjudicator to provide us with their results. Chief adjudicator, please may you come forward.
Announcing the results for this previous round that we've just witnessed. We think that it was an all right round. By all right, I mean the argumentation was fair. We think there could have been more argumentation, more analysis, but I will just announce the results. So, in fourth place, we have opening government. In third place, we have closing opposition. In second place, we have opening opposition. And in first place, we have closing government. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief Adjudicator. At the end of the day, this is what we came here to see. True victory. We've had champions and people that will not be proceeding, unfortunately. Regardless, this has been quite the entertaining and enthralling debate brought to you by Say What. This has been the SASI Debate Challenge, and this is our 8th edition in 2025. Not to forget how we are being supported by the beautiful organization of SEAL, SAYWHAT Events and Lifestyle Services. Don't even get us started on the courtesy that Nyarazo has given us. Thank you very much for watching. I've been your debate master, and you can call me Master Jumbe. See you next time. Thank you. Goodbye.
I look up in the sky, God is my angel. I look up in the sky, God gonna save me. I've got a vision, so I gotta work on it. Hey. Nobody bring me down, so I gotta go, gotta go.
I got a dream, when you know you have a dream.
Work, work, work.
I got a dream, when you know you